same time?
Yes. Yeah. It was absolutely fantastic to watch him.
Okay, is everybody ready? Here we go. Go, Tom. That's my camera. That's your camera. Good evening. I'm Barbara Tinnerman Cecil, and on behalf of Susie Spittler and Tom Beck, I want to welcome you to the 36th Oral History Taping. Today is Monday, October 10th, 2016, and today we're going to hear from the Milton Union Alumni Band. Our first speaker is Alice Martin. Alice?
Thanks, Barb. My name's Alice Martin. I did not graduate from Milton, but I was president of band parents for a long time. My son was in it. My daughter was Marquette. We had a small band after a large band, and I missed the large band. So I went to the Milton Union School Board, and I talked with them about starting the Milton Union Alumni Band, not even knowing how we were going to do it, if we would be able to do it, how many we would end up with, what we would be able to do. Well, they gave us permission, and I contacted Jane Gilbert. She had also served as a band parents president, and she had addresses. So we started sending out invitations of addresses to band members and so forth and so on. And we had quite a response come in. We started the alumni band in 1987. And we started out small, but in 1988, we had over 100 in the alumni band that marched at the homecoming parade and did a show at halftime that went from 5-yard line to 5-yard line. Scott Hinkle, you'll hear him later, he was the drum major that year. We had 24 Marquettes that came back, and believe it or not, they were still able to go down in the splits and get up. And we had a flag corps that came back and the majorettes, and it was quite a night. And the crowd was cheering and screaming and hollering because they had not heard a band that big for quite a while. And I love my kids. I love my Milton Union Bulldogs. There's a lot of them that still call me Mom, and I treasure every one of them, but I treasure this band. We had so much fun. We marched in so many parades, and we had banners that said Milton Union Alumni Band. And we did parades at Bradford, Dayton, Troy, anywhere they would let us march about, we would go march. And we just really had a great, great time. And it's tonight, I've probably shed some tears thinking about tonight because I love the memories and I love all the kids and I love all the people that have participated over the years and has brought back so many, many, many memories of the things that happened in our alumni band. Now I'm going to turn it over here to Silvia.
I am Silvia Kress, and I started in the band probably around the early 50s. At that time, Lawrence Frazier was the band director, and he taught me sax, and I joined the band and loved it from the day one. And as time went on, I was in the senior band, and we would have band camps, and we would go to Miller's Grove. I don't know if anybody remembers where Miller Grove is now, but it was really nice, and we'd go over there. They would bus us over on a bus in the morning, and we'd practice in the morning, and we got to swim in the afternoon. And then we would have our parents come and have a nice meal for us, and then we got to practice some more. And this went on for a week, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. In fact, I remember some of the band members trying to get me to go off the high dive, and I said, well, I might jump in, and I did, and I went to the bottom, and I decided I'm not doing that anymore. But still, we had a lot of fun, and, all the football games were a delight to go to. We just had the best time. Well, my senior year, back then, all the clubs at the school would have a float. Now I think it's just the 4 grades, but we all had a float. So the band had a float, and we built it, and I guess it was considered around the world, and because they, I got to show you this picture. They built this float, and they put me on the very top. And if you look carefully, Barbara Tinnerman Cecil is on there also. But I don't remember getting up there, and I don't remember getting off. But years later, and my senior year, Dean Stitz came. And the senior boys gave him a really rough time because they liked Lawrence Frazier, what he did, and of course Dean had different ideas. And so it was kind of difficult for Mr. Stitz for a while. But anyway, after that, we had a town band, and Dean Stitz had that too, and we all enjoyed that. And I really don't know what happened. I think everybody got busy, and they just started dropping off from that. And then later, Alice started the town band, or the alumni band, and I said, oh, yes, I got to be in there, because I still play my sax for church in different places, so I always enjoy playing. So anyway, we went to that, and let me see. Oh, at that time, Dean Stitz came to me, and he said, do you remember when you were on that float? And I said, yeah. And he said, I want to tell you something. I was scared to death. And I said, oh, really? I don't remember being scared. But, it surprised me after all those years, he still remembered how nervous he was for me being up there. But anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing, and I still love to get together with the alumni band. We get together for 4th of July and for homecoming, and it's always fun to meet those that love to play, and we go out and have a good time. So now I'll turn it over to Connie.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Spittlers and Mr. Beck for the opportunity to be here and to share our history. My history for Milton Union High School band started in 1960 when my family moved to West Milton. And I was kind of an obstinate kid because I didn't want to move because it was my freshman year. And I was unhappy having to move away from my school that I had been 8 years in. And I had been in band in the 8th grade, marching band in my other school of West Alexandria. And I was scared to death because I was going to have to try out for Milton Union High School band. And I thought, oh my gosh, how's that going to go? But lo and behold, Mr. Stitz had taken the initiative and called my band director at West Alexandria. And sight unseen, Dean Stitz let me be in the band. So my first experience was my sister driving me to Miller's Grove. And that in itself is an experience, to be out there marching in the dust and the heat of August. So every day, my freshman year, my sister drove me 30 miles, both one way each day, morning and afternoon, to be in marching band. And I have to say that that was life-saving for me to be in the band, because as a freshman coming to a new school is probably the same way Mr. Stitz felt when his first day meeting the new kids who probably didn't like to have a new band director. So that was life-saving for me to meet the kids in the band, because they welcomed me, and I became had new friends, and being in the band actually turned my life around for being a freshman in high school. And I play cornet, which is a short form of the trumpet, and some people say it's a little more mellower sound. So that was a good beginning for my freshman year at Milton Union High School. The other thing that happened that year is the same thing that's happening this year, is the 1960 presidential campaign. And that was the people in the campaign were Vice President Nixon, and a new challenger upon the field was John F. Kennedy. And the one thing the band got to do was to go to a presidential campaign at Hobart Arena. And our band was selected, and I think it had to do with Robert Netzley being a representative, so it had to be part of the Nixon campaign. So here we were at Hobart Arena getting part of that excitement. So that was a great experience for us, and especially young people being part of the system and being part of a civics lesson for us. So that was really exciting for us as band members to be invited to a presidential campaign. I'm not quite sure if it was the vice president nominee that was there or if it actually was Nixon that was there. My memory is short because that was 50 years ago. But anyway, that was a highlight for us to be able to be there. And the other highlight for us was always being able to go to all the away games and contests and that. The other thing was pep band. Pep band was different then. You didn't just show up to be in pep band. You had to be selected. I was not selected until my junior year, and so my junior and senior year I was in pep band, so that was an awesome part of my high school years. So band really played a highlight of my life in high school and made long-lasting friendships. Donna Tinnerman Plunkett is one of those friends. The other thing is I am a member of the alumni band. I was a late member because I had a busy practice in Dayton, pediatric practice, and couldn't get away to all those things. So I'm just really pleased to be able to participate that. I did get to participate in one of those great big alumni events on the field, and that was an awesome event to be able to participate in. And I, like Sylvia, enjoy playing my instrument, and I do play it at church as well. And my lip doesn't last as long now as it used to. So I'm just really pleased to be able to participate and play my instrument. And I play it for my grandnieces and nephews, and they are amazed that I still can do it. So I hand it over to Belinda now.
Hi, I'm Belinda Brainwright. I graduated in 1970. Then I actually came back and started teaching in Melton in 1974 and taught there until 2004 when I retired. Band was always fun for me in high school. It was more of sort of a fellowship. I mean, there was a tightness with the band that you didn't normally get with your other classmates or with kids in other classes. Because a lot of times in high school, you were only friends with people in your grade. But with the band, you were actually able to get with kids from other classes, either above you or below you, and get to play with them and get to know them. I can remember when we were in 7th and 8th grade, we were that class that kept getting shoved back to McKinley. We went to kindergarten in 1st and 2nd grade not kindergarten, but 1st and 2nd grade at McKinley, and then they built the elementary, and then we went over there for third grade, and then we came back to McKinley for 4, 5, and 6, and then we got to go to the high school for 7th grade, and then when we got to 8th grade, they sent us back to McKinley because they had built the elementary at that time. So we just like, and when we were in 8th grade, the song came out that we got to get out of this place. That was our theme song. So we got to get out. This is the last. So what I do when I started teaching, I went back and taught there for. When I first started teaching, I taught at McKinley. So it was like I never could get away from there. But I can remember when we were in 8th grade, we used to have to trudge every day from McKinley to the high school for band practice, rain or shine. You know, some days you came back smelling like wet little dogs, but you always had to make that trip to the high school for lunch and for everything else. I mean, kids nowadays don't understand that, but we always had to make that trudge, and I remember that with the band because you always got to do that, go over, even in 6th grade, I think we went over there for band because we started band in 6th grade, so we used to go. So you really didn't have much of a music room in the McKinley. So in high school, I can remember playing in pep band too, and I also played for some of the high school plays. Dean usually had a band that helped play for part of the play, so I can remember playing for a couple of the junior plays or senior class plays when they had bands that played along with them. So I don't know. You know, it's kind of strange because nowadays the band, seems like they practice one show almost the whole season. Mm-hmm. They do a competition show. And I can remember when we were in school, we did a new show every home game. So every 2 weeks, you were learning 5 or 6 new songs.
Exactly.
And you had to memorize them and you had to get them learned. And you learned a lot of education from learning those and memorizing those things. It helps you out in a lot of ways that we didn't realize then, but as I got older, I knew, as I got into teaching, I knew how much that helped. So, yeah, I can remember a lot of the bus trips in high school, going to away games, and I can remember putting we'd always put the drums about in the middle of the bus so we could all sit in the back of the bus and nobody in the front of the bus could see what the back of the bus was doing. You know, some of those crazy things you do. Secrets. Secrets, I know. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. But if I had your sister, we could tell some stories. Whoops. So, but yeah, I was with the community band before the alumni band started, and that was kind of fun. But it didn't take off as well. I know I went with Harold Allball, and we went over and played with Tip Community Band some, because they had a big band, and if you really wanted, you could do that. But Dean tried to have one here, but it just did not, and there was not enough people with the dedication to keep it going. But Tip Community really has a big band too, but I didn't stick with that one because it was a pain to have to go all the way over there every week to practice. And if you all know me, I'm not one big one for practicing. When we play parades twice a year, my horn comes out of the case twice a year. I take it out of the case and I play at the 4th of July, and I take it out of the case and I play at homecoming, and it goes back home and back in the closet, along with the music. So, but yeah, that's some of the things I remember. And I do remember that one of the, back in the early 90s or mid 90s, in one of these pictures that I have, we had people from like 5 different decades in this picture. You have Harold Allball, who went to high school in the 50s. We had Bill J., who graduated in the 50s. We had Sylvia and some of them that graduated. Did you graduate in 60s? 58. 58. And we had some from the 60s, we had some from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So it was kind of interesting that we had, 5 different decades there,
Half a
5 or 6,
century.
of people that came back and played with us. So that was a lot of fun. We got to a point where we started writing and not marching, because some of the older ones, it was not as easy to do as it used to be. But it's been a lot of fun over the years. I've really enjoyed it. And I'll turn it over to Debbie.
I'm Debbie Schhuman, and I graduated in 1976 from Milton. And when I graduated in 1976, I went away for a while. I went to nursing school, then I went to Columbus, then I went to Michigan. So I didn't start an alumni band until in 1991. But when I was in the 5th grade, my mom didn't say, "Do you want to be in the band?" She said, "What instrument do you want to play?" So, there you go. So I thought, I'll try the trumpet. So I remember, I can still see myself sitting in 5th grade and Mr. Stitz behind me, blatting the trumpet behind me, going, "You nerd," just like that. And I just thought, okay, what have I gotten myself into? But my mother and dad want me to do this. And of course, I ended up loving it. And Mr. Stitz was the most wonderful band director ever. I remember when I was in 8th grade, I thought it was an honor back then, that he invited only 3 of us trumpet players to go to the Northmont away game in the stands with the high school band. And I thought, I was like, this is great. I'm doing really, really well. And then I remember as a freshman standing at the sideline being scared to death the first time ever going out on the marching field. I'm like standing there shaking in my boots. And then as a freshman, the seniors decided that it was pouring down rain. It was our last home game, and I remember all of us didn't want to march. It was pouring down rain, there was mud on the field, but my dear husband, who was a senior at the time, of course we got married 13 years ago. Anyway, so there he is, Steve. And we're the only married couple in the alumni band. I'm kind of proud of that too. And so anyway, we're out, and the seniors voted that we would march because it was their last senior band night. So I'm standing out there, dripping. I can still see my plume dripping wet, dripping in the mud. And so that's what I remember my freshman year. But I just remember wonderful, wonderful people in the band, and it was just so wonderful. So then I started, like I said, in the alumni band in 1991. I'd been out of the state for all that time, and I hadn't had my trumpet out of its case for 15 years. And I thought, if I can make noise, I'll try it. So actually, I didn't do a bad scale for these old lips. So I had Mr. Kelly in Inglewood refurbish it, and I thought, by Georgie, I'm gonna try it. So in 1991, I showed up at a practice. I think I surprised a lot of people who I knew that they didn't know I was coming back into town, and so it's just been a real joy. Steve and I love it. Like Belinda, we get our trumpets, we get our horns out about the night before, and we play, but we do try, and all the neighbors around us, when it's especially around July 4th, they hear us practicing. But I am just so thankful that we have this time with our fellow band members. It's a wonderful time, and again, I'm like Belinda, I love it that we are on a flatbed truck or trailer, because I don't think because we used to, of course, walk, not march, but we used to do that, and that was really hard. So, but I'm really, really thankful, and I love this group of people, and we'll just keep it going as long as there's 9 of us on the float or whatever. So anyway, so now I turn it over to my husband, Steve.
I'm Steve Schhuman, graduated in 1973, and Debbie, you didn't know that you were going to marry the guy that voted
No.
to make you stand in the mud and in the rain that last game in 1972. But, so I'm glad you married me anyway. But I'm reading a book, an autobiography by Winston Churchill right now. And he looks back on his 12 years of education before college and so forth as being the dreariest, unhappiest portion of his life. And I was reading that and thought, he wasn't in the band.
That's true.
That's right.
So when I look back, I think those years in high school would have been a lot more dreary.
Yes.
Without being in the band and without being, with many of these people here in that band. And same as Debbie, I can remember my dad saying, "Which instrument are you going to play?" And so you stole my line on that one, but whoops, got to get the glasses. One thing about I was also in that shuffle around in the McKinley building and the hikes over to the high school back and forth. But because of that scheduling, all the band members were in the same class together. And so there might have been other people in my class, but I hardly know who they were. Because from the 6th grade on, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade until high school, we were mostly in the same class.
Exactly.
And so we got to be quite close. After graduation, I learned what a good band director Dean Stitz was. When you're in the middle of something, you just know that's when you're young, that's the way it is, that's the way it's always been. You take things for granted. And so since then, I learned what a wonderful band director the Dean was, and we ended up being able to honor him as part of the alumni band. And I can remember one night, after he had gotten so that he couldn't come out and see us anymore, and so we took our trailer after the parade and went over to in front of his house and got off and gave him a serenade, and he enjoyed that very much. Back in band again, though, we had to learn new shows every couple of weeks and a lot of memorization. But we didn't go to contest.
No.
So I always felt that band was a community service, and we helped participate in raising the spirit of the school, and we had fun. And I have just good memories of high school, largely because of band and Mr. Stitz. And thanks, Alice, again, for your initiative in starting the alumni band. And it's still going. Did you imagine it still going after all this time?
No, but I'm sure glad it is.
Yeah. Well, we're having fun. And I tell Debbie that, especially if the weather's bad, Debbie questions about participation.
I always do.
And I always tell her, as long as I'm alive and as long as I'm able, there's going to be an alumni band if there's only one person in it. And that's this old man. Maybe riding a tricycle down the street playing a trombone. I don't know. But, yeah, and so, again, enjoy being in the band with all of you. Thank you for coming tonight, and let's keep it up. Oh, and this is an old traveling companion of mine, Scott Hinkle.
We need a drum roll.
Thank you, Stephen. I will go ahead and start out, first of all, by saying that I was in the high school band from my freshman year through my senior year, and I carried the cornet for 3 years in marching band. Didn't really play it, I just carried it. In concert band, they actually gave me a baritone, and for a long time, I played the baritone in concert band. But the cornet was my primary instrument. My senior year, Mr. Bowman, Ken Bowman, who was our band director, had tryouts for the field commander position, which for some people would be equivalent to a drum major. And that year he opened it up to seniors and juniors, upcoming seniors and juniors, and I think we had like 8 people try out that year. And all of them were first chair of the flutes, the trumpets, the trombones. Everybody was trying out for this position. And I'm the guy who carried the cornet for 3 years. So at the end, we had to do a demonstration of conducting, and then we had to have a personal interview with Ken Bowman. So all these people go into Ken Bowman's office and say, Mr. Bowman, I want to tell you, I think I could be a real asset to this band. You know, I really love band, yada, yada, yada. And they all left. I walk into Bowman, so he looked at me, and I looked at him and said, Mr. Bowman, you look out that door, and everybody out there is a first chair something. You pick me, you got nothing to lose. He looked at me, he smiled, and he says, okay, and I left his office. Then it was 2 days later, he called everybody into the band room and announced that I would become the field commander that year. It was a great time. I got to tell you, I always enjoyed band. It was fun. The drill team, the Marquettes that year were phenomenal. My senior year, we went to the Fairborn Baker competition. The band placed 4th. And I remember we were standing there and they were announcing the winners and everything. And when it came to the auxiliaries, they were talking about the drill team. And Jamie Wackler was standing next to me, and they called out Milton Union Marquettes. And she grabbed my arm and jumped up and down and was like, and I finally looked at her and I said, go get the trophy. I didn't want to be part of her victory, so she went up and she came back with the largest trophy. It was almost as big as she was at the time. And I remember we came back and Alice Martin managed to get a hold of the fire department, and they let us into town where there was a huge to-do about it, taking us all the way, and then they stopped at what is now the McKinley building and the bank. We all got off the buses and we marched into the high school parking lot. We had a great time. That same year, that summer, we went down to Disney World for Mickey Mouse's 50th. You'll probably hear some more of that. But when it came to the alumni band, Miss Martin had talked about how she'd send out invitations to people, written invitations. I did not get a written invitation. I got Sherry Martin Sandiford coming to my door, knocking on the door and says, guess what? We're starting an alumni band and you're in charge. It was kind of a fun thing to do at the time. We'd been out of school 9-10 years at the time. In fact, in '88, the largest band we had, that was our 10th year high school reunion. We had a picnic out at, I think it was Miller's Grove, and we had to stop. Chris Foreman, myself, and Sherry, we piled into my little pickup truck, and we drove into town so we could have practice. And at the end, we brought Sherry back. At the time, Sherry was married to a classmate of mine, Rick Sandiford. She still is. And it was just, pulling this whole thing together was kind of fun. I recall that we marched the Strawberry Festival in Troy. And my mother was standing there, and Penny Fessler was our majorette, and she was up front. And She was expecting. I think she was about 8 months in, if I remember correctly. My mom's standing there, and all of a sudden she hears two little old ladies. One lady goes, gasp. She's like, look at that. That majorette's pregnant. And then all of a sudden, the lady next to her goes, oh, it's okay. They're an alumni band. But when we got started, we marched the Strawberry Festival because it paid a little money, and we were trying to buy drums and a tube to get it refurbished. We marched the Children's Parade downtown Dayton, and that's when we got our shirts that said "Old Dogs Never Die" on the back, which Chris Foreman had brought up, which is kind of a play on Douglas MacArthur's quote, "Old soldiers never die." In fact, Watt Farrar, the football coach at the time, he really loved that saying. In fact, he loved everything that we did. His favorite fight song was "Bless 'Em All," and I think it's because it had a historical connotation to it. But the alumni band, I haven't participated in it as much as I should because, one, I'm still just carry the trumpet now instead of a cornet, and I do have a tendency to be a little bit lazy, and I do live in Dayton, but that's no excuse. I really enjoy these people. Like I said, Steve and myself, we've traveled together. We went to Straits of Mackinac and walked the bridge on Labor Day. But it's
Long time ago.
It was 1979, come think of it. But like I said, it was, and it's been an experience, it's been a pleasure. And someday when you guys decide to want to talk about the West Milton players, I'll be back to help you with that one too. Now I'm going to turn this over to my fellow classmate, Jeff McDaniels.
Hello, I'm Jeff McDaniel, and I am a 78 grad along with Scott. And it was because of Scott, that he was one of the big characters that we had in our class, and being the drum major just really fit him, and he just brought a lot of energy to the band. And but anyways, I also ran cross country, and so the fall was a little tough for me to get involved in band. And so my favorite part of band was the pep band, which we got to play a lot of really cool songs. We a lot of the Chicago songs, and we just had a really good time. Just making a lot of noise, and the songs that we played in the pep band. And I think the year before I had started, we had just gotten some new really cool wood stands that somebody had made for us, and anyways, then in the mid-90s is when I got involved with the alumni band, and then probably just a couple years after I had gotten involved, I became the equipment manager. And so I've still got the banner that we used to have, that we used to either carry with us or tape to the front of a truck. But it's a little pink right now.
It's old, Jeff.
Yeah,
It's old.
yeah, it's old. I've had it wrapped, kept it wrapped up and stored just under the floor joists in my basement. And so if we ever want to get that back out, it's a little pink though. But the alumni band has been a lot of fun. We've had a really good time, playing. One of my first things that I played with was the Strawberry Festival, and it's always really hot that time in June, and so I think that was probably the last time we marched in a parade too. One of those really hot Strawberry Festival parades. I really enjoyed it, but not everybody enjoyed being out there walking all that. I don't even think Scott enjoyed it that much, but it was. Alumni band has been a lot of fun. It's kept a lot of the memories and things that we've been able to just share with each other live. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim Sant.
All right, thank you, Jeff. My name is Tim Sant, and I am from the class of 1981. I guess that makes me the youngster here. That's pretty scary. In my tenure in band, actually went through 3 band directors. Of course, started with Mr. Stitz for beginning band, and we had beginning band in 6th grade. And then had Mr. Allen for 7th grade.
Woody.
And then Mr. Bowman for 8th grade and beyond. So did go through 3 band directors. And over the course of that transition, We went from, like they had said, where you do a different show every week, and most of your stuff was block style. And starting in '77, we started moving to core style, which is more along what Drum Corps International is. I will also say, was fortunate enough to be the first class not to have to wear the stupid little red shorts, but we moved to, which way are you at there? Sashes, and we had wore long black pants and white
Golf
polo
shirt.
shirts and the red cummerbund with the sashes, and the band moms made these for us. So they made that, and at that time we were marching, 150 some kids in band at that point. So the class was very large. I know, as mentioned before, starting in 7th grade for our group, you went through basically all your classes together because your classes had to line up with that slot in the band schedule. So you got very close to those people. Another interesting statistic at the time too, normally between 25 and 33% of the entire school body was in band. So you knew most everybody in band by the time you went through marching band. Another thing too in the era, now things are different today. When our kids grew up, you had soccer and all these other activities that kids go to. There weren't that many activities in Milton. You had your school sports, you had boys baseball and girls softball in the summer, youth groups and scouts maybe, and that was about it for activities. But you saw a lot of the band kids starting in the mid-'70s and up got in with the ground root of Milton players and were very instrumental in that. Almost everyone in band was in Young Spirits as well. So you saw a lot of cross pollination, as it were. But there were times, especially when you're doing Milton players and Young Spirits and band, you were with those people 7 days a week because Young Spirits was on Saturday and players was on Sunday, and so that was really special. Band and alumni band are a social connection. I enjoy coming back every year and seeing everybody. I know Mrs. Martin had mentioned before, I don't know if we can get this if this will work with the screen or not. Might have too much glare there. Oops. But that's one of the years when we had a large alumni band out on the field. And it was really fun. We actually used to do halftime show, and we do pregame as well. Back to Strawberry Festival, the one year that Penny was pregnant, it was hot as heck. And I know the rest of us were marching going, we're not going to make the parade. But Lord, she is 8 months pregnant and she is still going, we can't drop out. So we kept marching that one. And I don't know if it was that year or the year before, homecoming, it snowed.
Yes.
That homecoming parade. And I remember coming down, because we marched up Main Street there, my beard was frozen solid ice from all that snow. So I am also glad that we ride on a truck now. And we said we used to do a lot of things, but we lost a lot of members because I think we did ask too much and too much commitment, and family time's important too. We have simplified. We do 4th of July, we do homecoming, and we did a pep band this year, and we'd like to get on and do one pep band game a year, because those are fun. You just get in and jam with the kids and play, and it's an awful lot of fun. That way also we can also standardize our music so people don't have to think they have to learn new music all the time. It's the same. Also through pep band, we have reintroduced fight songs back to the school that had been lost between the classes of the 80s leaving and the turn of the millennium there. Very early on, we reintroduced Bless 'Em All, which had been dropped out of rotation for one reason or another, but we've brought that back, and I know the high school band now plays Bless 'Em All. We also brought back Across the Field. Now, I don't know if that was ever officially a Milton fight song. However, in respect to Mr. Stitz, who was an OSU graduate, we would always play that for him, and we also know the Milton crowd likes that as well, so we do play Across the Field periodically. And in this past year, at this past homecoming, we reintroduced Go Eat Bulldogs, which had been lost for quite a few years, so we're trying to bring that one back as well. So trying to reintroduce some of the old traditions back. The high school band doesn't need to pick those up, but we're glad to do that too, and we think people remember that. Another thing with Alumni Band, it's not only open to members of Milton Union High School. If there's anybody who lives in West Milton or Union Township that plays an instrument and would like to join us, they are more than welcome to. Our goal is to support instrumental music in the community and to support the Milton Union bands. So that's what we do. The school district and the instructors and educators have all been very supportive of us and very helpful. Mr. Roberts, the current band director, is very good to us and very cooperative. I appreciate all of what he does for us and what he does for his students. Myself, having two students, or my youngest is now in his final year of college and finishing up college marching band and going through, so we've been 10 years of marching band between high school and college now with the two kids. I do have I was very involved in the high school band. I ended up being band president for Lakota West for 2 years. Our annual marching band budget was probably more than the entire Milton School District budget. Mind-boggling, but gave me an appreciation for what our parents, and especially Mrs. Martin and Mrs. Gilbert, for those of you that were band parents and did so much for us. We really do appreciate everything you did for us, and I know we never thanked you at the time, and it's long overdue. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to Barb.
I remember playing at the Miami County Fair. Anybody remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We used to go over there, and now when you go, there is no live band like we had.
Yeah.
What else do you remember?
Someone had mentioned something about playing in inclement weather, and I can remember one year, I don't remember what year it was in high school, but we didn't go to Northridge one year because it was raining like crazy, and Northridge never had a crowd, and we just didn't go. And the team lost, and they shouldn't have lost to Northridge. Watt Farrar was very, very upset. He said, "We lost because the band didn't go. They didn't play for us." So we never stayed home from a game again. The team said, we're going. So but it was kind of funny. Really wasn't our fault, but he had to blame somebody.
I think one of my best memories, and I'm going to try not to cry through this, was the year that we took the Milton Band to Disney. Fabulous trip. We had to raise, now this will sound like nothing today, but we had to raise $49,000 to take the band to Disney. And Smedley's donated a car, and all the businesses here in town donated, and even Hobart's donated and so forth. But we got the money raised, and we had to fly on 3 different airplanes because the school board didn't want to take a chance on one of the planes going down and killing all the band members. But we got down there, and I can remember standing in front of Cinderella's castle, and as those Milton Union flags came across that bridge from Frontierland, and we could hear that band coming, and the parents that were there, the tears were streaming. And the crowd went wild, and Disney commented about that was the best marching band that they had ever had come to Disney. And so the kids in the band were dedicated. We had a lot of fun. I've always been a little bit ornery, I'll just admit it, and I still am. But that's what makes life happy. And I still love my Milton Union dogs, and I love my alumni band, and I love Milton Union High School. I just absolutely, I think our town should be so thrilled with our school system and the teachers and the things that are going on in this district. And we just are so blessed. And I just love seeing all of you. You guys you have no idea what you mean to me. I'm sorry. I just love each and every one of you.
I would like to comment on Tim's comment about the band boosters and the parents, because when I came in 1960, one of the first things they were doing was measuring for new band uniforms, and that we had not evidently had not had band uniforms since the 1940s. We had the old captain style hats and the spats and all of that. And this was going to be the new style from the 60s. So, and it was because of the band boosters that they were able to go ahead and order new band uniforms. And I know there have been band uniforms since the 60s, but it's because of the band boosters and the parents and what they do to be able to get band uniforms, because the school board does not provide band uniforms. I lean back to say that because Alice comes to the school board meetings, and being on the school board, I know we don't provide this. So it's a great service that the band parents and the band boosters and the kids participate in that, hold raffles and hold car washes and things like that. So that was a great thing. We were all so excited to get those new, that plume probably, that, I don't know how many years they kept the uniform. I think they do a good, but, we used to have things to put on those new plumes. We used to have a plastic bag to put on them when we got them, because we had to take them off so they wouldn't get wet and put them inside. And we had plastic coats to put on them when we first got our new uniforms. I mean, we took very good care of those. We were really, really, really proud of those new uniforms. So, and they were really forgiving too, because they had the cinchers, so if you gained some weight and you lost some weight, your pants fit.
I can remember the uniforms we had were wool.
Yes.
And one year we marched Fireman's Convention, which was usually in June, and we marched in our winter uniforms. And that was the last time we marched. We marched in our winter uniforms in the summer, because we were dropping like flies, because those things were so hot and they didn't breathe at all.
They were nice in the winter.
They were nice in the winter, but when they weren't, but they didn't smell so nice when they got wet.
No, they didn't.
Sort of like we did when we went back and forth.
Now, other foul weather, I remember, it might have been my sophomore, junior year, we were at the competition in Wayne. And we're standing on the sidelines, actually it might have been freshman year, because I think I was playing tuba at the time. But we're standing on the sidelines, getting ready to take the field for competition, and lightning hits the end post. And you just hear the announcement, everyone take cover.
It wasn't my senior year, it must have been Bo Karch's, because I
Might have
believe
been.
you guys got caught in a downpour too.
Oh, yeah, it was just, we were out there and it just started raining and that lightning hit, and it was like,
Now, you guys, anybody remember selling Smiling Scott's
Oh, yeah.
products to raise money?
Yes.
Yes, Connie was talking about the boosters. All the way back in 6th grade.
They had this box of trinkets and trash and this god-awful cheddar cheese in a crock. And we would sell this stuff to our relatives and grandparents and, thank God nobody died. But that's how we raised money, and we bought raincoats.
They probably
Those
threw
big
it
red
out.
heavy rubber raincoats that
Teacher, I
had milk
remember
across the
buying those
back.
things.
We raised all that money to do that by selling Smiling Scots.
Well, and back to the Florida trip too, I remember other things we did. We did many paper drives where we canvassed the entire township for papers.
Yep.
The band parents did a thing called Rent a Kid. and God love them for organizing it, but a number they'd call in if you needed a kid to come out and mow your yard, wash your car. I remember poor Al Schweitzer across the street. He paid me to wax every one of his cars. That's how I earned my way to Florida, by waxing his cars. And he had a daughter in the band too, so he was paying for her to go too. But I mean, it was fun.
Wax off.
And then band camp, we because of the Florida trip, we got bounced around with band camp. So we went to band camp on my freshman year at Miller's Grove. We couldn't afford to go to Miller's Grove because we spent all of our money to go to Florida. So sophomore year, we did band camp at the high school.
Yeah.
Horrible. Just horrible.
No swimming pool.
No swimming pool. Junior year, we lost our slot at Miller's, so we had to go to Clearwater, which was okay. And then senior year, we got back to Miller's Grove. So we did band camp all around the township.
I remember when Mr. Bowman first came, his first parade was Fireman's Convention. And the band was lined up just outside where the band room was. And the kids were just a yak, yak, yakking, yakking, yakking. Now everybody's a yak, 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 yakking. And all of a sudden, here comes this little short, fat, red-headed guy up and down the rows of that band. When I am here, you are at attention. You do not move. You do not breathe. You do not look at each other. I do not want to hear another thing. And I don't think there was one kid in that band that moved, said a word, or anything else. And the band parents that was there to chaperone that band, we all just kind of stood there like, oh, Lord, what have we got now?
But he turned out to be pretty good.
He was an excellent band director. He was a good supporter of the band parents. He was a supporter of the band, and he was well liked. He was strict. He made the band parents march along in the parades, whether you had the right shoes on or not. You might have blisters as bad as the majorettes, but he didn't want any stranger coming off the street if one of the band kids passed out. So we had a lot of fun in band, and wonderful memories and wonderful times, and we've had some excellent band directors over the years. And of course, you always have one or two that, oh well, whatever. Can't have them perfect all the time, but we've had some good ones. We've had some excellent band directors in our school.
I remember when I was in, we went to the cemeteries. I don't know if the band still does that or not, but that was always fun to go to see the different cemeteries. And it was hot one day, and I remember one of our members passed out, and we thought, what happened to her? You know, but that was always a lot of fun. And then too, we had, and I forget when it was, there would be like maybe 10 or 12 bands get together at some school, and we got out of school to go practice for that, and that was always a bunch of fun because you got to meet other bands and other directors and stuff, and we'd each perform our little individual shows, but then we'd all sit down on a mass all over the football field and play. Do you remember doing that, Barb?
I do.
You had to be in there at that time.
I do.
I remember doing that once or
I
twice.
do too.
She skipped that day.
Did you go to a high school or did you go to like Miami?
We went to high school. We went to high
I
school.
remember doing that too.
And then I remember going to fairs too. That was always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, because you'd sit up and play for the races or whatever.
Yeah.
You'd sit up in the grandstands and play for the races or whatever, yeah.
And I
remember
think-
my- I remember my,
track, too.
yeah, in my senior year, we went, and some of them just, it was back when they would still let us drive ourselves, and a couple of the guys drove themselves and got in a car accident, and one of them ended up in a wheelchair, so they stopped it after
Randy
that. So you
Whitaker.
could, yeah, so you couldn't drive
Yes.
anymore. But I can remember going to all the different cemeteries. We'd get on the bus, and we'd start out and we'd go to Nashville,
Nashville.
and we'd go to Potsdam, we'd go to Lara, and then we'd do the parade here in town for Memorial Day every year.
And I think Milton Union High School Marching Band is the only band in the state of Ohio that had a bass drum player that could do a somersault playing the bass drum during a show. His name was Joe Rosengarten, and he was absolutely the best on that bass drum.
He was a showman. Yep, it was funny.
Going back to Mr. Bowman, my senior year, I went to vocational school down to JVS. And many times, like we said, we always had a competition show, but then you also did other shows during the year. And you'd practice the other show, and of course, being in JVS, you only had the after-school rehearsals. And never forget, happened multiple times, show up to school Friday night for the football game, they go, oh, he changed the show, you need to memorize these pieces of music for tonight. So I had the first half of the game to memorize the music for halftime. Because the marching stayed the same, you just played different songs. It's like, okay. So yeah, that was always fun. But like Belinda said, being forced to memorize that much stuff that frequently helps your mind and helps you learn.
Yeah, those memory skills
So
are
there was a lot of benefit to that.
That's why we teach little kids nursery rhymes and things that they can repeat over and over and over, because it builds that memory. Yeah. The first time I met Ken Bowman was my freshman year in college. I played in the marching band at Miami University, and I left the band early that year because I didn't like the fact that I wasn't a music major, So whether I marched in a game or not was not a priority. If this kid needed to be able to have to march in a game, whether he could play and march at the same time, it didn't matter. They'd take you out, put him in. But anyhow, they told me I quit. They told me to turn in my equipment. I went and turned it into the equipment manager, Ken Bowman. He was the equipment manager for the band. He was in the band, and he was the equipment manager for the band at Miami when I was in college. Wow.
The other thing Ken would do too, he was notoriously late for pep band. Always late for pep band. So we'd all be standing out there. But we also realized he never locked the window to his office. So you could crawl up the chain link fence across the shop, climb through his window, unlock the building so you could let everybody in. And he'd get there. We'd all be in there practicing, getting ready for pep band. But he'd show up about a half hour later.
Oh,
when
those
I
were
was
the
in-
days, my friend.
Yes, they were.
Playing cards in the, yeah.
When I was in pep band, we had one of the members of the band be the director. So we just, we eliminated the actual director at the time. But that was always fun. Basketball games are really neat.
It was.
Yeah, we had student directors, but Ken had to be there since he was
Oh, did he?
the teacher. We had to have a teacher there with us.
In the building.
I wouldn't leave us alone.
I wouldn't leave you guys anywhere alone.
One more thing.
Sure.
The alumni band was much larger at one time, and we actually do supposedly own 2 sousaphones, a couple of bass drums, some snares, some tritoms, etc. We don't know where they're at. We don't know where they're, so if anybody in earshot of this transmission knows where those instruments are, please return them to the high school or say call 339-7300 and turn yourself in. Thank you.
Or come and join us.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been so interesting. Thank you all very, very much. It's just brought back such wonderful memories of my band days, and I hope yours too, and I hope yours too. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we'll see you the next time.